Welcome to the Betting Above the Rim podcast. Today's date, June 19th, Juneteenth, episode 62 of our podcast. In today's podcast, we get into four topics. Number one, obviously the big news of the day is Monty Williams being dismissed as the head coach of the Pistons. We'll talk about his short tenure at the Pistons and where they go from here. Next, we look at Pascal Siakam after getting traded mid-season from Toronto to Indiana. It's reported through Woj that Pascal will agree to a contract extension to keep him in Indiana. What are the ramifications of that young team that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals? Next, we put a bow on the NBA season and talk about the Celtics winning the NBA championship, my thoughts on how they got there, and also we kind of do a little brief preview into next year as the championship odds for the 2025 NBA championship are out. And lastly, we go to the W and talk about Angel Reese. There's so much talk about her off the floor. I want to get into her on the floor where the focus really should be. Welcome to today's podcast. Let's get started with a breaking news early this morning by Woj that Monty Williams had been let go from the Detroit Pistons. 1 year into his tenure. They're going to eat this contract, folks. 5 years, $65+ million left on his deal. Do you know that obviously Trajan Langdon, the former Duke Blue Devil, a.k.a. the Alaskan Assassin, who is now the president of basketball operations for Detroit, who came over from New Orleans, basically the thought was initially that he made the move. It wasn't him, folks. It was actually ownership that gave the blessing of removing Monty Williams after he had signed a 6-year deal. So when you look at a team like the Detroit Pistons, you got to think about what went wrong with this team. This is a team that going into this year, I had high expectations. You look at a player like Cade Cunningham, who looked really good with the select team last summer and was really poised to make a big jump in his game. Then you can look at Jaden Ivey. What were we expecting out of him in year number 2, where we're going to see a development of Jaden Ivey? You could talk about guys like Jalen Duren, the center. What were we expecting out of Jalen Duren as he were to kind of get going with his NBA career? But they also had some wily veterans. You can look at a guy like Bogdanovich. You can look at a guy like Stewart. You can look at a guy like Burks. You can look at Killian Hayes. And you really thought that this team was going to be something. Folks, I'll be honest with you. When they got rid of Dwayne Casey and brought in Monty Williams, I had an expectation that this team was going to go places. And folks, it didn't start off bad. I mean, opening night, they lose by 1 point to Miami. Then they win their next 2. They're 2-1. And we're like, oh my goodness, here come the Pistons. And folks, they didn't win a game from October 28th to December 30th. More than 2 calendar months. 28 games later, this team finally got their third win. And although they played a little bit better, I don't know if you call it a little bit better on the stretch, but they ended up tied with the worst record in the NBA. And when you start pulling up their players, let's be honest with you. Cade Cunningham gave you 62 games. He gave you 22.7 points per game and 7.5 assists. And you said, okay, that's what we were thinking when Cade was the number 1 draft pick out of Oklahoma State several years ago, being a career high in points. I mean, actually shot the ball the best of his career, shot the ball the best he could from 3. His free throw shooting percentage was the highest of his career, and same was with assists. So basically, everything that statistically Cade was supposed to do in year number 3, Cade did. But then you start peeling back and you look at some of the other guys, namely Jaden Ivey. And Jaden Ivey is someone that I was such a big fan coming out of. Remember, folks, he started the year coming off the bench. I don't think his people were happy about it. But Jaden Ivey, who is such a prolific scorer at Purdue, his scoring went down from 16.3 to 15.4 points per game. played less minutes. Is that probably because of his defensive inability? Well, he shot it better from the floor, shot it same from three, same from the free throw line, less assists, less turnovers. So even though he didn't make that jump we were expecting out of Ivy, it wasn't like he had himself a bad year. Then you go to the man in the middle, Jalen Duren, who came out the blocks hotter than fish grease off the jump. When you look at the fact that his first three games and first couple of games of the year, I mean, this guy was averaging in November, 15.5 points, 13.3 rebounds per game. But he was kind of up and down a little bit. Jalen Duren ended up being fifth in the NBA at 11.6 rebounds per game, 13.8 points per game. So this is a guy that is always going to be around the basket and a rim protector. So you thought when you had those three pieces, that was going to be enough. Monty Williams, folks, let's be honest, did really good job with Phoenix initially in getting Devin Booker to play better, getting at times DeAndre Ayton to play better, even though they had their issues. The same Monty Williams that was the head coach of a young Chris Paul team when they were the New Orleans Hornets. So you really thought that Monty was going to be that guy. You figured his young, the fact that people like him, it just didn't work. So when you're bringing a new basketball operations guy, Trajan Langdon, you have to allow him to have his say, his own coach. So they ate the money. They ate the money and they start over. And when you look at it, folks, they have those three building blocks in Duren, in Ivy, in Cunningham, in Thompson. They got 3-4 young pieces. To me, it's about skill development and trying to get the guy that can build them up. Folks, every time a job opens up, I keep looking at Kenny Atkinson. I keep looking at him because I have the respect I have for Kenny as a coach and the developer of talent. I think Kenny deserves a shot. I think Sam Cassell deserves a shot at a job. I think Johnny Bryant from the Knicks deserves a shot at a job, right? I think I know Coach Quinn out of Miami, Chris Quinn, he deserves a shot. See, I don't want to see a retread. I don't want to see a guy getting his third, fourth try. Give Kenny a shot. This is second try. And he has been known to be a great at skill development. Quinn hasn't been a head coach. Cassell hasn't been a head coach. Johnny Bryant hasn't been a head coach. Give one of these guys a shot to build up this roster. They are intriguing, folks, with those 4 young pieces, with the number 5 overall draft pick, with the amount of money they have in salary cap and for free agency. Detroit could be a team, folks, that can make a move. If you really, really sit down and look at it, right? If you really think about it, if you think about the East, just hear me out for a second. They have the worst record. Should they be better than Washington next year? If they get the right coach? Yes. Can he be better than Charlotte? Yes. Can he be better than Toronto? Yes. Can he be better than Brooklyn? Possibly. Could he be better than Atlanta? Let's see if Atlanta blows it up, which they might. Could he be better than Chicago? If Chicago blows it up, they might. So you're looking at a way where this team could really go from being the worst team in the NBA with a 14-68 record, right, to a team that could be sniffing the play-in tournament next year. It's going to be intriguing what Trajan Langdon does in Detroit. Folks, Detroit is a city of tradition that they've had, from the bad boys, right? To the Isaiah Thomas when he was younger, when he first got in the league in the early 80s, to guys like Bob Lanier and Dave Bing in the 70s, right? And you think about the team with Larry Brown, right? With Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace and Richard Hamilton and Chauncey Billups. Like, Detroit is a hard-nosed, tough city. They need to get a team that they can rally behind in that city, right? The Lions have done a great job where they've extended themselves. The Tigers seem to be slowly turning it around, right? But when I think of Detroit, man, you got to also think about hoops. They got to do a better job. This is a critical stage in this franchise. Let's hope Trajan Langdon gets it right. Let's move on to a team that did get it right this past year, a young team, and that's the Indiana Pacers. And it was reported also by Woj this morning that Pascal Siakam, All-Star Pascal Siakam, is going to sign a 4-year, $189.5 million max deal to return to Indiana. And folks, you got to give this man his money. This is a guy for a long time, it's been a damn good pro. And he really kind of exploded on the scene a couple of years ago, and he's a guy that as a point forward he can impact the game in different ways, right? Offensively, defensively, right? He was having a really great year with Toronto, getting 22.2 points per game. Now, he got off to a little bit of a slow start, scoring the ball, but he picked it up later in the year, right? Ended up scoring 21.3 points per game, getting you 7.8 rebounds, getting you 3.7 assists. Now, the assists were down, but you can't look at his assist numbers being down after being traded because of the fact that the ball was in Tyrese Halliburton's hands, right? But as you saw during the playoffs, he has an ability to take his game to another level. Scoring this past year, the postseason, 21.6 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 3.8 assists, shooting 54.1% from the floor. Listen, at the end of the day, Pascal Siakam has his warts, right? He's not a great shooter. That is something that Pascal has got to get better at. I'm sure he will tell you that himself. But he helped galvanize that young team once they made that trade. And I think he is a guy that you can build it around with Miles Turner, with Tyrese Halliburton. Look at them to bring back Nemrard. He's going to get a huge amount of money. Naismith proved himself to be a tough 3-and-D guy. They got to bring back TJ McConnell, right? They got to bring back Obi Toppin. But this team really did a great job this year. And I will say this. Rick Carlisle is a hell of a coach. I think Rick Carlisle doesn't get the respect that he is warranted for what he has done in this league for a long time. This is an up-and-coming team. And they had to make sure they re-signed Pascal. This was so important for this team. But what it brings me to is this really quickly. It puts a team like the Knicks in a really tough spot. Because I'm not saying that the Knicks got to give OG Anunoby a max deal, but OG and Pascal are not much different. Now, obviously, Pascal is a little bit better of a ball handler. I could say maybe OG the better defender. You can look at OG being a better shooter, Pascal being a better driver, but that big wing that can defend multiple positions, that can score the ball, this puts the Knicks in an interesting situation. Brian Windhorst reported, I do believe yesterday, that he feels like OG is underwhelmed with the Knicks offer. Now that Pascal Siakam has gotten a maximum deal, if I'm OG Anunoby, I'm a Knicks fan, you got to walk in saying I want $40 million a year or more. And the Knicks, just like the Pacers, I don't think they have a choice. When you trade assets and picks for a guy that elevates your team, you can't turn around and say, well, he wasn't worth it. So watch out for, now that Siakam is signed, watch out for OG Anunoby and what happens in New York. He's got to be saying thank you to Pascal for getting that maximum deal, because if I'm him, I'm walking there less than 4 years, $160 million. I want $40 million a year. I don't care if Brunson makes $30 million. This ain't about Jalen. This ain't about Julius Randle. This is about OG Anunoby. And this is about the fact that he's going to get major money. It also leads me to the fact that I think you will get Brunson wait and punt on re-signing or extending with the Knicks so that they can use some money this offseason. Interesting times. But shout out to Pascal Siakam for getting that extension. Much, 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 much deserved. Speaking of much deserved, we must give our flowers to the 2024 NBA champion, the Boston Celtics. Oh, God, it pains me to say that. Winning their 18th championship a couple of nights ago and a 106-88 win versus the Dallas Mavericks. And it was a fantastic performance by the Celtics. And I'm going to put something to bed right now. And I was one of these people that kind of was like, oh, well, look what they did. And look who they, that Jimmy Butler didn't play. And Halliburton missed 2.5 games. And Donovan Mitchell missed 2 games. And Karis LeVert missed the game. And obviously, Jared Allen missed the whole series. Folks, it don't matter. It don't matter. 4-1, 4-1, 4-0, 4-1. That's all you need to know. This team was the best offensive team, offensive rating, one of the best offensive ratings in the history of the game, and their defense was top 5 as well. And it starts with that guy, Jason Tatum. I, folks, believe Jason Tatum deserved to win the MVP of the finals. Am I going to go kicking and screaming about it? No. But what I saw out of Tatum was maturity. A guy that impacted it in a lot of different ways. A Tatum that, even though did not shoot the ball well from the floor, only 38.8%, still got you 22.2, 7.8, 7.2. Including giving you an 11 assists, 8 rebound, 31-point performance in the crucial clincher of game number 5. See, simply put, when Tatum would have rough games shooting, he wouldn't impact the game in other ways. He did that, and it showed his maturity, and he's firmly stamped himself as one of the 10 best players in the world, and he's probably approaching, folks, the top 5 because of his availability. Then you got to go to Jaylen Brown, who was named MVP of both the Eastern Conference Finals and the MVP of the NBA Finals. A Jaylen Brown that for a long time, me included, would knock him because I thought that he wasn't enough of a team guy. Like he wouldn't do other things enough, in my opinion. A Jaylen Brown that this year got you 23, 5.5, 3.6. I want you to think about that for a second. And then go look at him in the finals, and yes, he only got you 20.8, but he got you 5.4 rebounds, but the key, 5 assists. 5 assists. In 3 of the last 4 games, he had 6 assists or more. That shows me a guy that also is maturing right in front of our eyes. The ability to punch the gap and drive the ball, but their willingness to dime people off and get other people's shots is what is making him more dynamic. But speaking of dynamic, it's more than those two. It's not the Jason and Jaylen show. It's guys like Derek White. Shrewd move by Brad Stevens getting Derek White from San Antonio last year. Perfect complement as another guard. Someone that can knock down the open shot. Second team all defense. Right? Then you go make the 2 trades the offseason. You get Kristaps Porzingis at 7'3". I know he was hurt, folks, but this guy can change the game, folks, when healthy. At 7'3", to shoot the ball from the 3-point line, the ability to punch the gap and drive if you come up on him, and the fact that he's an elite rim protector is important. Now, he's never going to be the guy that's going to guard you in the low post. Right? But how many back-to-the-basket low-post bigs do we have that they throw the ball and say, go get it? Joker, Embiid. Who is your next back-to-the-basket big where they run their offense through them? I want you to think about it. So he can be proved to be effective to guard. Now, can Kristaps Porzingis guard in the 90s? When it was Shaq in the low post, David Robinson in the low post, Hakeem Olajuwon in the low post, Patrick Ewing in the low post, Rick Smith in the low post, Brad Doherty in the low post, and aging Moses Malone in the low post, Kevin Willis in the low post. No, but this ain't the 90s. He is a modern day big, and it works. Getting Drew Holiday, who is the best defensive player in the league. I ain't talking all NBA defense. I don't care if you're second team. He's the best defender in the world, in my opinion. And as much as Boston loved Marcus Smart, they saw from the jump that Drew Holiday's an upgrade over Marcus Smart. No which ways around it. They ain't talking about Marcus Smart anymore in Boston. They're all upset when he got traded. They talking about him now? I don't hear them talking about him now. Now that Marcus Smart is with the Memphis Grizzlies. And then there's this guy, the wily veteran, Al Horford, 37, 38 years of age, still getting it done at 38. I mean, man, I always tell y'all folks, Father Time is undefeated. I tell you what, Al Horford getting him a run for his money. Al Horford, who had 8.6, 6.4 rebounds this year. Al Horford's giving Father Time a run for his money. He's never going to blow you away with stats. But he's a perfect glue guy, and he plays the right way. But it's more than that. It's the Sam Hausers, it's Peyton Pritchards. Joe Mazzulla did a great job getting Charles Lee and Sam Cassell on staff. He's going to lose Charles Lee to Charlotte this offseason as he becomes head coach. Well-deserved, Charles Lee. You already heard me talk about Sam Cassell. I think he should get a head coaching job. Folks, they're not going anywhere. Just look at the odds to win the NBA championship next year, open and released by BetMGM. They are a $4.50 favorite over the second next team in Denver. Dallas 9-1. We'll talk about them maybe some point next week. Milwaukee 10-1. You know, what's going to happen there? Is Dame happy? Is Giannis happy? You know, Doc Rivers talked about in the last week and a half that Dame was out of shape. Minnesota, can they take that leap? 10-1. Oklahoma City, wow, they're coming. What did Sam Presti put all the chips in the middle of the table? The Knicks at 16-1. The Knicks are 16-1. They have the third best odds in the Eastern Conference, tied with Philadelphia. What do? Do they bring back OG? Does Randall get traded? There's rumors that the Knicks are angling for their next superstar. Who's that going to be? Philadelphia at 16-1, right? Maxey, Embiid, can he stay healthy? Tobias, see you later. Is it PG-13? Is it Jimmy Butler? You know, is it Brandon Ingram? Daryl Morey makes trades. They're going to get someone. But until you knock them off, because of the age of their roster, when you look at Jaylen Brown being 27, Hauser being 26, Holiday and Horford are veterans, right? Porzingis is 28. Pritchard is 26. Tatum is 26. Derek White, 29. This title run is just starting, folks. Could we be seeing a new Celtic dynasty? There's some teams out west and maybe some teams out east that'll have something to say about it. But for right now, the Celtics have to be the overwhelming favorite, and they are at 3-1, according to BetMGM, to win the 2025 NBA championship. Congrats to them and their whole organization. Let's end today's podcast talking about Angel Reese. And Angel Reese, folks, is getting you 12.1 points per game, 12.2 rebounds per game. An Angel Reese that is showing that she belongs in the W. But a funny thing has happened, folks. Angel Reese is being known about what she's saying off the floor than what she's saying or doing on the floor. I think I said that right. When you think about Angel Reese, I want to have a conversation with Angel because I am a huge fan of hers. I am not a huge fan of her college coach. Everybody knows that. I'm also a huge fan of her WNBA coach, Teresa Weatherspoon, because I loved watching Teaspoon play when the WNBA inaugurated, and she was a point guard for a long time with the New York Liberty. I have a ton of respect for, you know, the Mabry family, knowing Marina, knowing Michaela, knowing Dara, knowing Rory, the older brother, knowing the whole Mabry family, Patty. What what a wonderful woman Patty Mabry's done and been in this area of the Jersey Shore in her development of basketball players. But I want to talk to Angel. I wish she could hear this. Your game can do all the talking for you, baby girl. Your ability to rebound is a joy to watch. The passion that you play with is fun to watch. I think the love from your teammates is fun to watch. But you gotta stop worrying about the outside noise and worry about just straight up balling, because you are a baller. Now, let me give you some advice as a post coach. You have to do a better job of when you drop step, getting your feet parallel to the baseline, getting the ball away from the defender, and leaning in with your inside shoulder and finishing stronger at the basket. There is no way that you should be shooting only 37.1% from the floor. You must be better. You must be better. And if you finish stronger, you're shooting 76% from the foul line. But when you try to hunt foul calls, you're not going to get to the free throw line enough. Does that make sense? You're shooting 5.4 free throws per game. I personally think, if you start focusing on making the shot and drop stepping and finishing your shot stronger instead of trying to create contact, I think you'll shoot the ball better from the floor, and naturally, I think you're going to get more calls. Stop worrying about officials. Stop worrying about them. Stop comparing yourself to what Caitlin Clark did or what. There is a narrative in this country that they are trying, people, black and white, are using people like you and Caitlin Clark, I don't want to say to initiate race wars, but to divide our country. You got to do what's best for your game. Stop worrying about the outside noise. Just ball out. Let people appreciate the woman and the player that you are, because you are damn good at this game. And I guarantee you, if you focus more, a little bit more, and finishing a little bit stronger, and not worry about trying to get the contact and the referee calls, you will go from 12.1 to probably 15 to 16 points per game, 13 rebounds a game. I think you have a chance to be dominant. I also think it's your first year in the WNBA. It's a far more aggressive sport, and you will be much better in year two. But I don't want to wait, Angel. We need you to do this now. Do I think you are a future of the WNBA, part of the future, along with Caitlin Clark, along with Aaliyah Edwards, along with Cameron Brink, along with Cardozo, along with Paige Becker's coming in next year, along with Juju Watkins will come in a couple of years after that? Are you the future of the WNBA? Yes. But you got to work at it, baby girl, and not worry about all the outside noise. You have a chance to be special. You are special. You're a special talent. But I'm talking about your game being special. Stop worrying about the outside noise and focus on what's in between the lines. You do that and you finish a little bit stronger, you're going to have the career that not only you expect, but people who watch basketball and know basketball in WNBA like I expect. This is Betting Above the Rim podcast, episode 62. For all things sports gambling, go download that Sports Grid app. Pre-game, in-game, post-game, props, predictions, and more from the very best in the sports gambling industry. Next podcast, listen up. We're going to tape on Monday. We're working on getting Kevin Walsh, who is we're going to be running the three-man weave with Ben Stevens next week, Wednesday, Thursday for the NBA draft. I'm trying to get Kevin on for Monday so we can do a full draft breakdown. There's no better combo, that run that 2-on-1 break. You say it's Pharrell and Coach. You could say it's K-Dub and Coach. Either way, Coach always finishes when he's got the right guy running the break with him. K-Dub, we're looking to get him on Monday. For my producer, Matty George, Vinny, who always does a great job with the graphics. We'll see you next week, folks. Remember, it's smarter to be on Sports Grid. Good night.